Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time. I am Brita Wallace, family and parent educator with Wallace Family Ministry, and we are going on a Love Dare journey. We're doing a Love Dare for parents study that teaches us how to love our children well. And to practice love in action, and what that means and what our kids actually need from us. I am also doing a Love Dare challenge for your marriage or your relationship simultaneously with this one, so make sure you check that out as well. It's on the same exact channel, and they're all labeled. We're on the same exact day as we are on the Love Dare for marriages as we are for parents. So we do the same exact days together. Obviously, if that is too much for you, you can do one study first, you can do this one and then the one for marriages, or vice versa. The videos will be available to you. They're just released in order of the days that we're doing them. So day 12 is today, and then day 13 will be released tomorrow, and so on and so forth. So but they will be available for you. I'm not taking them down anytime soon. So we are going to hop in to day 12, which is love encourages, and we always start with a verse. So our verse today is Proverbs 16:24, and that says, "Pleasant words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones." Okay, so words are so powerful, and that's something that I really want you to get. This is a topic in Wallace Family Ministry that I go really deep into, is our language and the words that we use and choose with our children. This is not something I am 100% like amazing at. Sometimes when I'm frustrated, I say dumb things too, which when people, hear them and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, they're like, you didn't say anything bad. But that's how you think when we're parents, is like, well, maybe that wasn't so bad, but because I have training in this, because I've been in a situation where I know firsthand how much words have affected me in my life and the way that I was talked to, words that were said about me and spoken over me in my life, and how much of an impact they really had on my personality development, who I was growing up, who I was as a teenager, and my identity in life. And I'm not saying that there's anybody to blame for choices that I made or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. But as children, when we have words spoken over us, I mean, even as people, when words are being constantly spoken over us, so like if you are constantly bringing your spouse down or your children down or saying things that are negative, they are going to, our brains are already end up going into like a fight or flight mode a lot anyway. So that's why we tend to focus on negative things first, unless we reframe our brains and we reprogram them. It's because we literally, as humans, are trying to survive. So we're always, that's our go-to always, is like, okay, how are we going to survive? How are we going to survive? That's how we are, made developmentally. So we have to retrain our brains to say, nope, I'm going to dismiss this thought, right? When those negative thoughts come in, and I'm going to replace it with this positive thought. Things are not always what they seem, but our brains tend to focus more on the negative if we allow them to. So when we're constantly, that's already happening to us because of how we are, made developmentally, right? Because of how we are as humans. So just think about that. When we're constantly being negative with our kids, or discouraging or criticizing them, even if they're not doing the right things behaviorally, do you think they're going to grow in a positive direction? Do you think they even have a chance to grow in a positive direction when we are not speaking to them in a positive manner, when we are constantly criticizing them, when we're constantly speaking ill words over them, even if it's you're a bad child, or saying something like that? We should never be saying things like that to our children. We shouldn't be saying that to other people. and especially to our children. We do not want to claim those things over them. Yes, maybe something they did behaviorally you consider to be bad. Maybe you consider it to be unacceptable. This is a boundary in our home that we are not allowed to cross. So there's a big thing in my home with our 4-year-old who really pushes boundaries with respect. He's really trying to learn what that means, right? So, and obviously he doesn't know all of the things that are respectful or disrespectful, and he's learning. So we have to teach him, hey, that's really disrespectful. So, what do you think you need to go do? Well, I need to go apologize, and explaining to him why something was disrespectful. Because at 4, you don't know. You don't just come out knowing what respect is and what it isn't. We have to model that, right? So that's just an example in our home, is respect. And it's how we handle that. We use those things as teachable moments instead of saying, you're bad, you're being bad, don't talk to me like that, go to your room, yada, yada, yada. And creating this atmosphere where they literally, their voice is shot down, and that's just the final word. Well, no, I want him to learn to be respectful, so I'm going to just keep being consistent and explaining to him why something is disrespectful and why that is unacceptable behavior in our home. This is not something we are going to tolerate here. Respect for everybody, including him, needs to be of very high importance. That's something we value in our family, is respect, and that is for everybody. And how do you gain respect? You model respect, okay? So that's why I'm saying respect for everybody. Our kids need to be respected as well. So our words are powerful. What we're speaking over into our children has an effect on them, okay? So death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Proverbs 18:21. That is a key point that I want you to get today. Even if you are not spiritual, even if you do not believe in God, there is power in the tongue. This is proven research that the words that get spoken over our children, these are things that are taught to children. There is a book that is specifically for educators that is called The Power of Our Words, and there is no scripture in there. There's nothing godly or spiritual about it. It is specifically for teachers, and it talks about the power of our words with children and how we have to talk to them and how we have to address them, and why using positivity and the way that we gain kids' respect, and just goes into all sorts of deeper things with language and tone and all sorts of things, and how powerful they are. The book is called The Power of Our Words. If you want to look into it, it's actually really interesting, even if you don't have a teaching background or that is not something that interests you. It's very, very simple things to understand, and it really digs deep into why it is important for us to talk to kids and how to talk to kids appropriately, okay? So I have a tone issue sometimes, and it's something that you'll hear me talk about a lot. It's something that I don't live behind anymore, and it's something that I struggle with some days still. It depends on, of course, like our moods and everything else. I have to get to a place where sometimes I'm like, I just need to take a break because this is bothering me and I don't want to be disrespectful to you, okay? It's all right to even say that to our kids. I need a break. I don't want to be disrespectful to you, so I'm going to walk away, and then we're going to talk about this later. We don't have to address everything immediately. That's something in society that there's no reason for it. You don't always have to address something, immediately, especially if you don't feel like you can do that wisely, if you don't feel like you can do that calmly, if you don't feel like you can do that respectfully. Well, we're going to talk about this later. They're not going to forget what happened, and you can use it as a teachable moment as opposed to just screaming and yelling and speaking death over our children. And I'm not saying death like in a literal sense, but yeah, death of their identity. They start to lose their identity when we're speaking negativity into them all the time, when we're discouraging them, when they're trying to help and we are discouraging them and criticizing them, or when they are doing something, you know, say you give them a chore or something to do. I like to call them family contributions. When we're doing something, which is not my phrase, it's from Amy McCready. She is a parent educator, and I just want to put that out there. That's not something I came up with. That's something she came up with, and I think it's brilliant. And I just don't like the word chores, because I think that everybody in a family needs to contribute to the family. And I think when you're like explaining that to kids, it makes more sense to them than like, oh, I'm doing a chore, which actually sounds kind of painful. So no, we are a family. Everybody contributes. We each have our own family contributions. These are yours, these are mine, you know, yada, 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 whatever, and however that looks in your house. So, they're doing one of their family contributions, and you're standing over them and saying, you're not doing it right. You need to do it this way and this way and this way and this way and this way. And you're criticizing them. Well, maybe you do want them to do it a certain way. Maybe they are not doing it right. Maybe it needs to be taught correctly. But the way we are teaching matters. The words we are saying, the way we are saying them, the tone, the language, the body language, the looks on our face, it matters, okay? Love encourages. We need to be encouraging to our children. All right. So when you speak into the ears of your children, what you speak into the ears of your children can impart love and build bridges of hope for them, or it can poison their perceptions and crush their confidence. All right. But despite their failures, do your kids know that you are their biggest fan? When was the last time they walked away from a conversation with you with a renewed sense of acceptance, courage, and confidence? And in that paragraph, there's a few key things that I want you to pick up on. Proverbs 18:21, look that up. If you, we just talked about it as the power of death and life are in the tongue, right? And what you speak into the ears of your children can impart love and build bridges of hope for them, or it can poison and crush their perceptions and crush their confidence, okay? Despite our children's biggest failures, do your kids still know that you are their biggest fan? Ask yourself that question seriously, all right? When was the last time your children walked away from a conversation with you with a renewed sense of acceptance, courage, and confidence, okay? And another key point, there is a lot of good stuff in here because it's so important, the words that we are speaking in front of our children, over our children, around our children. 10 seconds of verbal venom can completely taint their lives forever. So it is crucial that we bridle our tongues, okay? And that's also comes from scripture, James 1:26, 2-12. But again, you can find this information elsewhere as well. You can find studies that go over how we communicate with children and how it affects them developmentally. There are studies now. We have come such a long way in human development and psychology, and how we have learned that our environment literally helps shape our brain more so than genetics. That is huge information for us to learn. Our environment literally shapes our brain and helps our brain develop, or it can cause it to be a little behind in development too in certain areas. Okay, our environment, it literally shapes how we grow, okay, how our brain develops. There are studies that show this today. So 10 seconds of verbal venom, 10 seconds, that's all it takes. 10 seconds can completely taint our children's lives forever. One thing you say out of anger to your children, they can remember for the rest of their lives. They can struggle with that statement for the rest of their lives. And I want to tell you that this was a struggle in my life. This is something that happened to me because I was a challenging child and there were things that were said to me. And I'm not saying that because I want to, point fingers or anything like that. I'm saying that from my own personal experience, how true I know this to be. And I know that, obviously, my parents had said things, and that's what's being implied here. And they absolutely loved me. They did the best that they could. But sometimes in certain situations, and as adults, I'm guilty of it. I'm sure you're guilty of it. Every single person as a parent is guilty of doing this at one time or another. But there had been some things that were said to me that I have had to work through over the past 3 years of this healing journey of mine. Some things that if something similar is said to me or something comes up, it sets off a trigger in me that tells me I'm not accepted, or I'm not loved, or I'm not good enough. These are the things we tell ourselves. These are limiting beliefs, right? But they stem from somewhere, okay? And oftentimes they do stem from our childhood. And this is why I'm saying, as parents, we have to be so careful. We have to watch the words that we are speaking to and over our children. We have to watch our tones. We have to watch our body language. We're not going to be perfect. It's just not going to happen. We're going to have times where we screw up and we say stupid things, but we need to rectify that immediately, okay? As soon as you realize you did something wrong, obviously if your child's really having a rough time and like having a tantrum, you can't talk to them about anything or reason with them about anything. My suggestion would be to let that ride, let them have their feelings, and then do something to connect with them first, if you can, and then, have a conversation with them where, even if it's simple as like reading a book before bed and then saying, hey, mommy said this thing, or mommy treated you this way earlier, and I just want to let you know that that was wrong. And I'm very, very sorry, and I don't want to do that. And I'm going to work hard to make sure that I'm calm before, I deal with this sort of situation again. And I'm going to work really hard to do that. And even mommies and daddies make mistakes too and need to apologize. And you know how humbling that is for us as parents, as adults? Do you know how humbling that is? And what a good lesson it is to teach our kids that they're never going to be perfect, that they're not expected to be perfect, and that they're going to make mistakes too. And it teaches them how to apologize and when to apologize, because whatever you said or did and you have this conviction about it, well, obviously you know that it hurt their feelings, and they're going to hurt people's feelings too. We all hurt other people, whether it's intentional or not. And we have to humble ourselves and we have to apologize. It's hard for some people to do that because I think we have a really big pride issue sometimes with like, I'm not going to apologize. Or that we think that it makes us look weak, but it doesn't. There's strength there. There's a lot of things in society today that say, hey, this is weak and this is what strength is. And I think that we have that backwards in society, because there's strength in vulnerability. There's strength in being able to apologize. There's strength in dealing with our emotions and expressing our emotions and feeling them. It's the way we handle them and what we choose to do in result of our emotions. But ignoring them and not acknowledging them is not the appropriate way to handle something. It's what we do with it. It's how we act. It's how we react. It's how we treat others, right? Acknowledging them is not a bad thing. It's what we do with them. All right. So we must allow the patience and kindness of love to guide our tongues and build an atmosphere of powerful encouragement. Our mouths should be nourishing wells of love and truth, not polluted springs of cursing, complaining, and insults. If those are the things that our children are subjected to in our homes, Those are the things that are going to come out of their mouths. So is that what you want for your children? If the answer is yes, well then that's your prerogative, and that's, that's your house, that's your values, that's your decision. Okay, but if it isn't, if that's not something that you want your children to be constantly complaining and to be insulting other people constantly, to be gossiping, to be cursing, and to have a foul mouth, right? If that's not what you want for your children, then those are not things that you should be exposing them to. Those are things you should be cautious of and really work on making sure those are not the kinds of things that are happening in your home, that your children are being exposed to in their environment. So we must allow patience and kindness of love to guide our tongues and build an atmosphere of powerful encouragement. That's the environment we want our children to ultimately grow up in, right? Our mouths should be nourishing wells of love and truth. That doesn't mean we can't tell our children the truth. That doesn't mean we don't speak truth to them or discipline them or correct them when we're wrong. It means we're speaking the truth to them in love, okay? And a lot of us don't know how to do that. It's something I'm still learning how to do well. I have the information, but I'm learning how to do it well, right? And we're not polluting them with cursing and insults and complaining, all right? And constant negativity. That's who they're gonna be, okay? Finding fault should never be our default with our kids. Kids who are constantly worried about being scolded after every error will wither under the weight of your words. Though God can exhibit many embarrassing things against any of us, the Bible reveals him as the one who delights over his children, and we should delight over them. We should be more focused on what they do right and the things that they are good at, to encourage that in them, because when somebody is building you up in that way, well, then you start feeling good and confident, and you start practicing those things more. And then those negative things that we don't like to see, those behavioral things, they start to fall off. And there is a degree. Every child is different. My child has special needs, so there's certain areas of things that he struggles with. So it's literally very, very difficult for him to do certain things or understand certain things. And then in other areas, he's advanced. And he really gets it. And in certain ways, he doesn't, okay? So we have to make sure, and that doesn't mean that if we have a child with special needs, we just get to stand behind that. Oh, well, they have special needs, they have special needs, they have special needs. Well, I know the parts of Jack's brain that are not functioning as a 4-year-old should be, and that's okay. But I'm never gonna say, oh, well, that's just because he struggles in this area and his brain just isn't caught up. Yes, that's absolutely true, but does that mean that we're not going to do anything about it? No, I'm going to work harder to help him through those things, to help his brain, to help train his brain. And it's exhausting sometimes, it is, and I do better at it some days than others. I will be honest, I'm a parent just like everybody else. I go through frustration, I get upset and angry. I'm just saying that the more we become aware of the things that need to change in us, the better it is for our children. So those are things that I'm working on, is being more patient, is being able to say, like, this is an area that he needs extra support in, and who's supposed to give that to him? Me as his mom, Chris as his dad, his family. He should have the support of his family, not be criticized for those things, not be brought down for those things, but to be supported in those things, okay? To be encouraged to make the right choices, to keep making the decisions that are correct, right? And we're encouraging him there, and he's gonna start making those decisions more and more. And we see it. We see the fruit of that. We see the fruit of that in school. We see the fruit of that at daycare. We see the fruit of that at home, and there's not a lot of other people around, because he tends to get really hyped up by other people being around, and it's a lot of adaption, and he struggles with adaption. And it tends to be a little chaotic when there's a bunch of other people around, and we live in an environment where there is a lot of people around during certain times of the year. So it's something he has to. Does that mean we're going to shelter him? No, it's something we're going to have to work harder to help him through, right? Because having family around and friends around and people around is good, and he loves that, but it's something that he struggles with also inside. You would never know because he's so like, hey, I'm so excited you're here, but he really struggles to adapt to that new environment. Just those small changes, any small change, he has to readapt to the situation, and for his brain it's more difficult for him. So we just help him through that more. We work harder to do that. We don't just use it as an excuse. We have to work harder. So finding fault should never be our default, right? Kids who are constantly worried about being scolded after every error will wither under the weight of your words, okay? That's another key point. The more you celebrate your children's lives now, the higher you lift their wings, and it gives them even greater reasons, giving you even greater reasons to celebrate them in the future. You continue to celebrate those things. You build their confidence by encouraging them. So open up your mouth and let love fly. Make sure we are guarding the things that we are saying to our children. It is so, so important. So how often do your kids hear you bragging on them in public? How often do you stop to re-emphasize your love or highlight something you admire? Think about what it does for their budding aspirations when they know that they can count on your encouragement to try a new challenge. When they're confident, you'll be there to support them, win or lose. They're freed up to take their very best swing, even at a difficult task. So take your encouragement to the next level by making your kind words to them delightful, deliberate, and daily, okay? Delightful, it's uplifting when they discover something you personally enjoy about them. Mention to your spouse what you really like about your children loud enough for you to hear it, okay? Or for them to hear it. Your praise will leap inside their hearts and may echo back and forth in their ears for years to come. And the negative things that we speak, those poison things that we speak, if they hear those stay with them for years to come too. So you can even tell them, you know what I really like about you, you know what I love about you, wow, I'm impressed with this, you're really good at this. Being deliberate, be strategic with your words. Whatever you choose to compliment will be what your children will value more and seek to duplicate in the future, like I was saying before. So be careful to affirm inner character more than merely outer appearance or public performance, because if you are focusing on those things, your children are going to be focused on those things, their public performance, their outer appearance, instead of what's on the inside, which is really, really what matters most, right? So pointing out how proud you are of their honesty, their diligence, and kindness strengthens their moral foundations more in the long run than telling them how much you like the way that they look or what they're doing. So aim your words at their hearts. This is where it counts the most. And then daily, you really want your children to be encouraged daily, right? We want to make sure that we are encouraging them day after day, so that none of you will be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. Hebrews 3:13. Love stays busy looking for reasons to affirm good character and behavior in our kids, no matter how old they get. Even if your children are grown, you can still find ways to highlight the little things they do to make you proud. And then last key point, the more you celebrate in their lives now, the higher you lift them up, giving you even greater reasons to celebrate them in the future. So open up your mouth and let your love fly. So our dare today is commit to mentioning positive attributes about your kids every day throughout this coming week, okay? Do it both privately to them as well as publicly to friends and family, and start making a habit of this. So this is interesting. When I did this study last, I had wrote a few things about Jack here, and I just saw it like valiant warrior. Like he is a warrior because there is so many things inside of him that he fights uh, behaviorally to struggle with. He knows that he's supposed to be behaving a certain way, and sometimes he'll say, Mama, I know that I'm not supposed to be I know that you want me to be sitting down right now, or we'll talk in privately, and I'll say, I know that you really want me to sit down at dinner, but my legs just don't want to let me. That's not him like telling me a story or making that up. That's really legit him saying, that's his way of saying, I'm having a hard time sitting down at the dinner table. My legs really don't want to do that. They want to move, because he struggles with hyperactivity. That is absolutely true. I'm like, I know, honey, I know. And that's why I understand that. I understand that it's hard for you. And I still believe that you can do it, Jack. And maybe you're not going to be able to do it today. Maybe you're not going to be able to do it tomorrow. Maybe you're not going to be able to do it next week. But the more you try hard to do it, eventually you're going to do that. And it's going to make you feel really good about yourself when you get there. And sometimes with certain things, we just have to try harder. We just have to try. It's more work, and that doesn't mean you can't do it. That's something I always say. He says, Mama, I can't do it. And I say, no, don't ever say you can't do it, Jack. You can do it. You can. Maybe not today, but you can do it. And we're just going to practice. We're going to practice, and we're going to try our best, and that's enough. And eventually, as we try our best, we're going to get there, and we're going to be successful, okay? So, and somebody told me at church when we used to pray in a mom's prayer group that Jack was a valiant warrior. They just used to say, I pray over him, and I just picture him as this valiant warrior. And this was at this time, I had this mom prayer group, so I wrote that down. But he is a warrior. There is a battle going on inside of that kid, and in all of our kids in some way, where they have to fight to do something, okay, no matter what it is. He's so very appreciative. He really is. He's just so appreciative when somebody does something for him. He really shows that appreciation. I really thank you for making me those cookies, or for making those cookies. They're so yummy. Thank you so much. Like, he really shows his appreciation. Loving. He's so loving. He can be a bear, of course, can't we all? But he really is so loving. He just says, Mama, I just love you so much, Mama, just randomly. At random times during the day, I just love you so much. And he just has such a loving heart, right? And he's really a great problem solver. So not all the time, because he's 4, but I see that in him. So I encourage him. You're a really great problem solver, Jack. How do you think we can handle this situation? And I ask a lot of curiosity questions with him. So, and then I wrote, Ollie's still a baby under there. But that is it for today. Make sure that you are being intentional to encourage your children every day, daily, into saying the power of our words are so very important. So make sure we're speaking truth into their lives, to focus on their positive attributes every day throughout this week, and do that privately with them and also in public in front of others, okay? So I love you guys. I thank you for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. I will see you tomorrow for day 13 of the Love Dare for Parents. Take care and God bless.